Imagine a young boy who lost his parents. He faces many adversities ever since the day his parents have died. He constantly wonders, what should I do? Should I join the gang? Should I rob someone? Is this my only chance for survival? Will I die with no one to care for me? The boy tries to boost his ego and stay positive, but simply can't. He has no thoughts of hope, and the kids on the block who make fun of his clothes make life no better for him. He becomes enraged around these kids and wishes that they would go through what he is. He wishes that they leave him alone. He wishes that he could bully them like they are doing to him. These thoughts rush through his mind like the active volcano, slow and smooth. He realizes he may be the only lone gun and has no chance to have a successful future. Will he ever find his legacy? Will he find a path to success? I myself can relate to this boy, for I have had adversities in this here school. I have faced the challenges of math, the battle of English, the war of history, and the dangers of science. Adversity is a struggle or challenge that you face either daily or possibly once. Adversity is an obstacle, and it can prevent you from your goals, dreams, or desires if you let them. In the novel, Maniac Maggie by Jerry Spinelli, the author writes about a boy named Jeffrey who faced a lot of adversity throughout his life. Jeffrey faces the adversity of losing his parents at age 3 in a trolley crash. He also becomes homeless when he decides to run away from his aunt and uncle because they were constantly fighting for him. Jeffrey hated this and decided to run off. He then ended up in a new town where the people didn't like or respect him. Jeffrey sleeps in a park and is also bullied by numerous people throughout this story. With no one to care for him, despair decides to take his place. It climbs into his body and refuses to come out. It says to him, "Look, you fool, I own you. You define my character ever so perfectly, and I will not leave whether you like it or not." Jeffrey can't take away his grief and sadness, no matter how hard he tries. Is it his fault he lost his parents? Is it his fault that he has no one that loves him? He must live with the adversities and realize there is no way to change the past, but only perseverance will get him through the future. Even though Jeffrey faces many adversities throughout his life, he still shows the core values of maturity and caring like a tolerated and well-behaved student. To explain, when Mars Bar heavily and violently, quote, thumped Maniac in the chest, unquote, Maniac didn't respond with violence or force, but instead was simply confused and questioned why he was being thumped. This shows Maniac is a mature character, because when you get punched, you usually want to fight back or start to argue, but Maniac didn't do this. He didn't have a bad reaction. He faced the situation maturely and handled it like an adult. He dealt with the issues smartly and chose not to fight back Mars Bar. Maniac is also a caring character because when the kid was thrown over the private gate by a group of bullies and remained there, quote, paralyzed, unquote, Maniac hopped the gate, picked the kid up, and, quote, hauled him out of there like a sack of flour, unquote. This explains that even though Maniac didn't know who the kid was at all, he still assisted him when he was in trouble, which is a sign of caring. This explains that Maniac has a caring character, caring and both a mature character when it comes to being around and helping others. In history class, our central question for our FPT project was, why do civilizations fall? In class, we discussed that civilizations can fall for one of the 3 primary reasons: economic troubles, when the civilization has problems with tax, income, or money; weak leaders, when leaders aren't strong enough to rule the empire or for hold its foundation; or a weak military, when the military is weak and cannot protect its empire's borders or its vast territory. I believe the primary reason for the fall of civilizations is weak leaders. The civilization that I believe fell for this reason is Mali. Mansa Musa was a strong leader and expanded Mali's borders evenly among the border and gave it a good reputation. But in 1332, when Mansa Musa died, Mali fell to its knees. Mali no longer had strong leaders to keep it a hold of its foundation. So when new leaders came in, they weren't able to, quote, protect Mali's vast territory, unquote, and, quote, nomads threatened to control Timbuktu and attack the caravan routes, unquote. The weak leaders that came into place didn't help the empire at all. These leaders couldn't stop people from invading Mali's southern border or end the revolts in the west. The people of Songhai were now free from Mali's rule and took advantage of the weak leaders. Mali no longer had strong leaders to run it, and everything shut down. If there's one thing we can learn from this empire, it's always have a backup leader. Like the US has a vice president. There needs to be a vice ruler because anything can happen to your primary ruler, leading for bad consequences in the future. For math FPT in 6th grade, we were to measure how much we changed throughout this year. We were given 100% of points to divide up among 5 categories to measure how much we have changed in each category this year. As you can see from my circle graph, I gave 50% of my change to integrity, 10% of my change to academic grit, 50% of my change to academic success, 20% to maturity, and 5% to leadership. I first rated the categories where the most improvement to least improvement until they added up to 100%. I changed most of the academic success because in literature, I didn't start off the year strong and I had a C+ in the beginning of the year. Since I wasn't happy with my grade, I worked hard so I could make improvements, and my next grade was A-. I also improved in math because I also had a C+ in math. But later on, I worked to improve my grades, and I tended to focus a lot more and pull my grade up to a B+. One specific moment that shows the big change is last year. I had a B- to a B+ and struggled to maintain my grades at a B- or a B+ in English. In English now, I have an A, and it is easier for me to maintain my grade as an A than before. This shows that I have grown most in academic success this year. The category I have changed / growed least in this year is leadership, which is why I gave it a 5%. Although I improved a lot this year in many things, I do not think I changed enough in leadership. I have trouble at times showing leadership quality when the class needs a leader. Instead, I tend to follow other students do and get off task. I also sometimes try to get my peers to laugh instead of telling them to get serious and push themselves. One action step I would take to remain in the zone and focus more, so I won't even have to be off task. The second action step I would take is I would try to be more of a leader and encourage positivity throughout the class instead of negatives, because if I do so, I can improve the class's behavior, my own behavior, and others' behavior around me, instead of goofing around and trying to get others off task. I think my actions are better when I really want them to be. So I have to make it better all the time at home, school, and anywhere I may be. As you can see, I have changed a great deal this year in 6th grade. My greatest change was in academic success, and my least change was leadership. In math class, we took our change points and changed them to percents, then to an angle measurement so we can make our circle graphs. We use protractors to create circle graphs to show the change for each category and colored each category to show the change. For my science FPT, the topic that connected to my 6th grade year was states of matter, gas, and solid. A gas has particles all over the place. They move at a fast pace and tend to not stay together. But at the beginning of the year, I was a gas. But when this gas begins to condensate, it becomes a liquid material. In a liquid, the particles aren't bouncing around a lot, but they aren't that close together either. The particles are close, but they don't stay in place. At the very end, after this liquid has frozen, you will get a solid. The liquid must freeze, quote, freeze, unquote, so you can get a solid, and then you will have a solid figure with particles that are close together and vibrant in place. One thing that can actually possibly change this state's form of matter is temperature. When a liquid freezes to form a solid, its temperature is decreasing and getting colder. When a gas turns to a liquid, it's condensating so it can get colder. But when a solid, quote, melts, unquote, it's getting hotter. The state of matter changes from a solid to a liquid. This explains that temperature affects the states of matter and what they are. My character, Waterson, rules over a land called Sky City. When he does this, he is like a gas and isn't ready to be a strong leader while running Sky City. The people of the city revolt and demand a new leader. A new leader, Nitro Head, comes in the city and tries to run against Waterson. Thanks to the people, Waterson loses, and Nitro Head, the new leader, bans him from Sky City forever, so that he will have no competition, and because Waterson didn't assist the people. Waterson begins to condensate on his way out of Sky City into a liquid. Waterson spots a new city called Puddleville and sees it as a very chaotic city. Waterson steps up and he tries to be a leader. Some people like Waterson's suggestion to be a leader, while others don't. The people who don't want Waterson as leader, or the anti-Sons, team up with the Snow people from Snowtown to have more power to overthrow Waterson. Waterson to them wasn't a strong enough leader in establishing fair order amongst the city, so the anti-Sons, the Snow people, tried to overthrow him. Waterson was rooted out of the city and had to go to a new city. In this town, he knows all his past mistakes and he promises that nothing like that will ever happen again. This allows him to be a solid leader. The way I incorporated my science facts in the story was by showing my character's change of matter throughout the story, by using my vocab and showing how he changed from a solid to a gas, from a gas to a solid. I chose the topic of gas to solid because it most connects to me in my 6th grade year. In the beginning of the year, I wasn't such a strong leader and didn't do good academically. So like a gas, my particles/atoms were all over the place. I wasn't focused on my work, and my grades as a result weren't good enough to make honor roll. In the middle of the year, I did a little better. I was able to make academic improvements by focusing on my work and studying so I could make honor roll. I began to, quote, condensate, unquote, so I could become a liquid, and even though I was good academically, my behavior was wrong. So bad, I actually had to face in-house suspension. As a liquid, my particles were close together, so I wasn't a mess, but they still didn't connect. At the end of the year, though, I was a solid, and I almost am about to achieve my goal of having high honors. At the end of the year, have frozen so I can go from a liquid to a solid, and so my particles can come together. At the end of the year, I am, and always will be, a strong solid who has reached their fullest potential. Imagine a boy who has been taken in by a loving family, who felt sorry for him. He told them what happened to his parents, and that he has no home instead of sleeping in the park. He's now sleeping in a comfy bed and is cared and nurtured for. He smiles every day and shows love and care to everyone. Joy leaps into his mind and says, now that I'm here, I'll never leave. He goes to school, lives in a house, and even has friends. He learns that helping others is important, and he is thankful for everything that he's given and that he receives. He stands proud, as happy as the sun in the morning. Isn't this the boy we love to see? A boy who was cared and nurtured for. No longer stands the boy who used to be sad and sleep in a park, but now a new one, happy one, is taking his place. Overcoming adversity has made me successful in history, science, math, and English. Only through facing adversities head-on was I able to be successful in science, math, English, and history. I'm Miguel R, and this is my FPT. Thank you.